he was okay with us. My husband worked for him, and then from this place where I worked, I went to the place where my husband worked. It was the same factory, but a different place. So I had a little better, a little easier. But this guy, he was okay.
So there was good, there was bad.
Good was, none of them was good.
No.
But some of them, they didn't want to see much what's going on, because they had a little heart in them. Seeing these young people struggling like that. Was afraid to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And one time I was sick or something, and I went a few times, and there was a woman, like a couple walking around. I said, "Where are you running like that?" She smacked my face.
Now, we talked about the lashings, and we talked about the hanging of that girl to set an example. Any other kind of punishment that you saw while you were there?
My husband worked like, it was the factory, but was an outside, like where the Germans lived. So they took him, he was a painter. He was painting for them, so there was an apple tree. And he took an apple, and they gave him a kick with the boot that he flew for 3 miles. He couldn't sit for months, he couldn't sit. So they just looked for things to punish us.
Was there any instance where there was a group that was punished for what one individual did?
No, everybody on their own, anybody came along for them.
Were there any attempts to escape from this
No,
this camp?
there was no escape.
Were there any children in the camp?
Yes, we had about 2 children. One was, the father got killed, and he was with the mother. And that kid was maybe 2 years old. He grew up with us, and he was wearing a belt with a little can. And he walked around. We should throw in the food to him. And every time he heard that this Stiglitz comes in, kid was hiding in the straw sack. He went in. He was he survived. He's somewhere in, I think, in France. I don't know. We heard that he survived, but this is the only one. And there was like younger, and they didn't survive. No, they got rid of them.
Were there any outside organizations ever visit the camp to see working conditions and so on?
The Germans, they supposed to check the cleanliness, but they didn't. They walked in, they walked out. Like I said, the showers were going 24 hours, but we weren't supposed to go in.
Were there any attempts to observe educational or religious practices in the camp?
My sister knew that this is Yom Kippur, this is Passover. So she worked in the kitchen. She stole a potato and she put it underneath the straw sack. So she knew. I didn't know how she find out when this is, because she's very religious now too. She kept it like it was 100 years ago.
Were there any acts of sabotage or any forms of resistance that you saw at the factory?
No, not in our factory, not that I know.
And the name of the commandant of that camp, was that the Stiglitz you had talked about?
Stiglitz, there were a few. There was Matthias, there was, I don't remember.
So you had some Jewish capos, and you had German and Polish, you had German supervisors in the factory for your work. How long did you stay at this camp?
This camp from 1943 to 1945.
Were you able to get any news from the outside world? Did you have any idea what was going on?
No, there was no news.
Did you have any hope that someone would come and rescue you?
No, but we were used to talk that we would like to have a bread on the table with a knife and eat, and there would still be some left on the table.
That was your dream?
That was our dream.
Yeah.
We didn't no butter or whatever, just a bread with a knife. And we should eat, and there should be still left on the table, not finish the whole thing.
Did you know what was happening at the war? Did you hear about the invasion of Europe?
No, no, we didn't know.
So,
I didn't know. Maybe
yeah.
some people. I was too young for that.
You didn't hear about the death of the President of the United States? Did you know the United States was in the war at that point?
We knew.
Yeah.
We knew. Yeah, we knew. And we were the ones liberated earlier than others.
Were you liberated by the, well, we'll get to that, yeah, we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, no,
Uh, Was the camp ever bombed?
no.
What was the first sign you saw that the war was coming to an end?
We, they, like, they got nervous. The Germans got nervous. That day was the 15th of the 16th of January, 1945. And by the evening, they said everybody out of the barracks, and we should line up like in 5. And we lined up, and my husband came over and he said, "Go, don't line up the first one, stay towards the end." He didn't know what happened, but you know, he's older, so boys were different. So we lined up, and then there was the railroad, and we saw the Germans hanging onto the railroad, and they were like bombing. Then we heard like shooting, and we didn't know. So then my husband and a few of the guys, they, in the middle of the night, they walked out where the Germans used to live, and they came back and they said, "They are not there." And people started yelling at them. They said, "They're coming down and they're going to shoot us." He said, "No, nobody is there." And he came with a suitcase with sacks. And we all grabbed the sacks, we started putting them on. And he came with a gun. I said, "What are you doing with that?" He said, "There is nobody there, I'm telling you." And we didn't believe that. And they took like the first 500 people, and they put them on the train, and they blew them up. The first 500 people.
So the war was coming to an end. They took 500 people out, put them on a plane.
The first 5, they were planning to do more,
Yeah.
but they had no chance. So the first 500, I had my cousins. I said to one of my cousins, I said, "Where are you running?" He said, "What's the difference today or tomorrow?" That was the thing. So they blew up about 500 people at that night.
They blew the train up? I mean, it's just...
At that night, and we were liberated them.
Yeah.
Because the Russians were there. A few of these young Russians with the tanks, they got drunk. And they just ran into the city. And that's why we were liberated in January.
Let's talk about the liberation. What stands out in your mind?
First was morning. We said we're going home.
Well, your husband had come in, said that nobody's there.
Nobody's there.
What did everybody do at that point?
We panicked. And we went back into the barracks.
Yeah.
And we stood there and we waited for daylight.
Oh, this was at nighttime. This was
Nighttime. Soon in the morning, we saw the daylight. We started walking.
Where were you walking to?
I don't know. We walked home.
Yeah.
And we walked out from the camp, and there was dead people all over. All over. We stepped on them.
What, prisoners or?
No, just Germans and Russians. There must have been a little shooting in the city. And we had 3 kilometers from this, and this was winter time. And we walked. And I passed by a mirror. There was like these chocolate factories, they had mirrors. And I looked at, I haven't seen a mirror in years. And I looked at myself and I started crying and running. And my sister said, "What's the matter?" I said, "That's not me." I was swollen, my head, my feet, and I was wearing like a kerchief, like an old lady, like an old crazy person. And she came over, she calmed me down, she said, "Look, this is it, we're free. I don't know where we go." And we got to the building where we used to live. And there was Polacks, they lived there, and she walked out and she said, "Oh, are you still alive?" That was, she said, we were a group of people running, I don't know where we were running. And then we occupied like a few buildings in the city. So there were 3 steps, I couldn't walk the steps, so they carried me up the steps. And by the time we walked in, the beds were taken, there was empty apartments, but the German left. And so I slept on a table. Every time I had to turn, they had to turn me because I couldn't move. And
Did you see the Russian soldiers at this time?
yes, and they gave us a hard time
Tell me about that.
because they were young guys. And there was a whole bunch of young girls. They didn't care if we sick or not.
Yeah,
So they just wanted to get to us.
yeah.
And luckily where we lived, we had the station of the NKVD, the Russian, for the, what take care of the soldiers in the station. And we always threatened them. And at night when we went to sleep, we used to put chairs in closets next to the doors because they were crazy. And then at the same time, I don't know from where, but some French people came in. They must have been liberated somewhere.
Yeah.
And they came in and they were so rude to them. They were so rude to them. And I don't know, we got a little food from them.
Who was rude to them? The Russians?
The
or?
Russians.
Yeah.
Oh, people,
Yeah.
wild, people. And then we had the French, and the French came in. They were liberated from somewhere. Till they, I don't know, I didn't bother to know about it. And we stayed in Poland like for till September.
September 1945. Yeah.
Because they told us if we're sick, if we go to Germany, they're gonna take care of us to these DP camps. So we start going.
Well,
No money.
let's go back a little bit. So you were liberated, now you knew you were gone. Did you see any more Germans at that point?
No, no more Germans.
And you said they killed one of the capos
Yeah,
at the
they
camp?
killed but no more Germans.
Yeah.
There were no Germans. There were just Russians.
The Germans gone.
They disappeared from us.
The Russians bring food or anything, or
No,
you had to get your
no,
own food?
they themselves didn't have any.
Yeah.
They didn't have any. I don't know what we lived on. There was a building, what we knew about it, and my husband went with some other friends and they brought potatoes. And they were frozen. And we laid on the floor. And by the morning, this was water. And we were swimming in the water from the potatoes.
Yeah.
So there was a stove, so in the morning we used to bake them, the skin. This was after the war. But we survived that. I don't know how, but
How much did you weigh at the time of liberation?
I don't know, very little, very little. All swollen, very little. My sister was very sick, so they told us if we want to build her up a little bit, we should give her some, I don't know, some fat. So we went around, we grabbed her here and there, but we put her back on her feet. Yeah.
Who supplied food to you? How did you get food?
We didn't get.
Yeah.
Then they organized like a Jewish, the joint. And we used to go there and sign in if anybody from the
Now, the war was still on, but this area was liberated by the
Yeah,
Russians.
the war was on, it just we
Yeah,
were liberated.
yeah.
And they had like a Jewish, the joint. And we went there, we got some food, and they took care of us little by little. They couldn't do much, but little by little. And then by September we left.
Now, what happened, by now the war was over.
Yeah.
You were liberated about, you remember the date you were liberated?
Yeah, January 1945,
Okay.
the night of the 15-16.
So now by September, you've regained some of your strength.
Yes.
You're still
My
living,
husband, they wanted him to go to be in the army.
yeah. What army?
Poland.
Yeah.
Well, he said, no way,
How did he not do that?
because we changed our name. He
Yeah.
changed his name.
Yeah.
We had a false passport. We paid for it. And we went through illegal. We went from Poland to Czechoslovakia. From Czechoslovakia, we went to Austria. Then we went to Germany. And we came into the German camps.
How did he buy a false passport? Were there people making those?
No, people were, they joined,
Yeah.
arranged that. The joint arranged that. And we came.
Were you married at this time? Or?
Yes.
Well, tell me about when you got married.
1945, in January 22nd.
Right after liberation.
Right. And then we came to Germany, so, they assist us to the DP camp. We went to Fernwald, near Munich.
Right.
And over there, they kept us for a while, and they fed us, and they took care, doctor, whatever
Yeah.
we needed.
Did you do work there at all?
No, there was no work.
Was your husband working there?
No, no. And then they sent us to a regular camp, like, was a camp, but this was like a transit.
Mhm.
People come and go. So we went to,
What was that camp called? You remember?
Deggendorf.
Dergendorf. Was that close to Ferndorf?
No, it wasn't close, but we went. We got into the, excuse me, we got into the trains, so we threw the Germans out.
Mhm.
And we got
It was a good feeling?
oh, through the window, not through the door, through the window. Look, there was a bunch of young guys, and that's what they did. And then we got to Deggendorf, and this was like a camp to stay there for a while. I don't know how long we're gonna stay there.
What was your plan? You had given up on, did you ever plan to go back to Poland?
No, no way.
No.
We wouldn't do that.
Were there any more pogroms in your area after the war that you knew of?
There was some, two of our friends, they went back and they were asking for their houses or whatever, they were killed right
Yeah.
away. Right after the war,
Yeah.
1945.
So you were not going to go back to
No,
Poland?
no, this was
What plan did you have? Did you have a plan?
no plans. We were sitting in that camp, we got our food,
Mhm.
whatever food they gave us, whatever they could. I mean,
Yeah.
they did okay. They did okay,
Yeah.
the Jewish organization.
These were Jewish camps primarily, or?
No, this was, I think, American camps.
Yeah, I mean, but the DPs were all Jews?
Yes,
Yeah.
all Jews.
Yeah.
And we were on that camp, and my husband got a little job in the camp. I don't know, whatever doing, just doing something.
Yeah.
And then my daughter came along,
Mhm.
so we were like a family. My sisters were there. Well, we made some friends with people come and go.
Mhm.
And we were there till 1947.
1947, all
My
right.
daughter was born 1946.
Mhm.
This was 1947. 1947, we signed up. I wanted to go to Israel. So we start our journey to Israel.
So where did you start in Italy?
We start from Germany.
Yeah.
We went to Italy. In Italy, they stopped us because the English, they wouldn't let us in. So we were stuck for a year in Italy, in Barletta, Bari, in a
Oh.
camp, where this was a military barracks.
Right.
And we divided with sheets
Yeah.
from one room to the other. That was another camp.
Were there a lot of people in there?
Yes, a lot of people.
So these were people who were going from Germany
To
to
Israel.
Palestine,
Yeah.
but
But we couldn't go.
who was taking you?
The, the, the Israeli government.
Mhm.
But the English, there was an underground, you know,
Yeah.
the Israel. So we went from Germany to Italy. In Italy, were there from 47 to 48.
Mhm.
48, when the Israeli was established, you know, when the
Mhm.
Israeli, so they said we could go. So we started going, but it wasn't still legal, so we had like a military ship, but they covered us up, and the kids weren't allowed to cry. There was a few little kids. We lived in Italy, we lived 30 people in one room, in Milano.
Mm.
Then they sent us to another camp. And we got to Israel, we were the first,
What kind of military ship was it?
like
Whose?
a warship.
Oh, it was an old war. It didn't belong. I mean, it wasn't the military.
No,
Yeah.
no, but the Israeli, they were so great.
Yeah.
These guys, they were just amazing. Things they did. And then we were in Italy, and we had to climb the Alps to go down to a camp.
Mhm.
And it was a pouring rain with my baby,
Mhm.
and I gave up. I said, I'm not going. So I have a friend, she lives in Israel, and she found a branch, I don't know from, she said, you hold on, and we're all gonna be down, but you hold on to that branch. And we came down, and her husband was wearing boots, and we wanted to take off the boots out of him, and his socks were shredded like because from all that walking. And when we got there, they said, we're gonna go to Palestine, to Israel. So they put us on a military ship and covered with, I don't know what they had on top, but not like people. And the kids are not supposed to cry, so they gave us things to put in their mouths. And finally, we got to Haifa. And we were the first ship with the UN, the legal one, what the UN took over. People were on the floor and kissing the grounds. And everybody got like a piece of white bread and a bottle of milk. This was the most exciting thing in my life when I saw that. And we came in 1948 and the war started in Jerusalem. And they took me in a little Betolim. This is like a little camp with the baby in a little barack. Like the wind was blowing. I've never seen sand, white sand like that. And my husband went to the army. No training, no clothes, and his own pants, with his own shirt. And they said, don't worry, we take care of you. And he was in the army, and I was left with my baby. And in the middle of the night, I heard like screaming, and I didn't know what this is. You know, I come from a big city, and this was these wild dogs, the shakal, and they were screaming, and they said, if they see light, they don't go near you. So I was sitting the next night with our candles. But we were there for a little while. After that,
What city were you in? Was it or what city was it near?
Hadera.
Oh.
Hadera. The camp was in Hadera. It's between Haifa and Tel Aviv.
Did you do any work there? Was it?
No, there was no work. We just stood online and got our food, and then came in the French Morocco. They were wild. These Jewish people, I don't know if they're Jewish, but they said they're Jewish. And if you stepped out of line for them, they just stab you with a knife. They were always going around with a knife. So we stayed out of them. We had enough trouble in our lives. We don't need that. And we were there about 3 months. And then they said we could take the Arabs, they left like Jaffa and around Tel Aviv, little towns. So we had a friend, and they took a room for us. They knew that we on the way. So while we going on the bus, going to that little town, I see their son on a bike. And I start crying and yelling. I said, Bertolt, we here. He turned around, he went back, he went to pick up, at that time we picked up a piece of ice. By the time in Israel we came back to the ice bath, the ice was melting. So we came and we got in there and they took us in and they put a lock on one of the doors and we started cleaning up because it was dirty, was no windows, was no doors. I don't know, the Arabs, that's the way they live. No windows, no doors, so we start grabbing a piece of wood from here and they helped us out. And that's how we start life in Israel.
How long did your husband stay in the army?
In the army for quite a while, till quiet down. This was the war in Jerusalem. This is the one in Jerusalem. But I was in the camp. They kept me as long as he was with me. Then he came, so we went to take that room.
What city was that did you live in, where the room was?
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Jubilee.
Yeah.
If I wanted to explain somebody where I lived, there was no address.
Yeah.
I said where the sewer runs out and there is a big tree. This is the little street where I live. There was people from Morocco, Jewish people from Russia, from Romania. We had, and it was nice because we all were in the same boat. And then my husband got the job.
What sort of work?
Painter.
As a painter?
As a painter. And we did fairly good.
Yeah.
We fixed up the apartment. My cousin came, we built a kitchen, and we built that. And the Arab what lived there she came and she was yelling, Zesheli, that's ours.
Yeah.
And I ran to the police. I said, what do we do? They said, we can't do anything about it. You do. Take a broom and chase her. So all the neighbors came out the next time she came with the broom.
Yeah.
And we chased her away. She never came back. And we lived there for about 5-6 years. And then we moved to Tel Aviv. So to the big city. We were established already. I had another child. And it was nice. I never wanted to go to America. I wanted to stay there. I liked it.
Yeah. Your husband was still working as a painter?
Yes.
Were you working at all? Yeah.
No work for me.
Yeah.
He was self-employed, he did okay. But you know what? Every month they called him to the army. For some reason they had his name on top. And there was always a knapsack with postcards addressed to home. But I know that he's alive. And he said every time. One time he came home from work, he said something was, we knew already, we were so trained that we knew what something's coming up. And he came home, he traveled by bike, and he said, it's dark around the Haifa, the Jaffa. He said, something is coming up. And I said, what? The minute he walked in, a truck came to take him. He said, he begged them, he said, I just came home, I want to be with my family for a little while. I know where to go, I be there. So every time was a little war, a big war, he was there. And then my sister and my sisters, after the war, 10 years away, please, we want you here. So I had my visa for 2 years.
Yeah, where had they come to America?
They came to America. And for 2 years I had my visas in the American consul. And I said to my husband, no, they're not, it's not ready.
Yeah.
I didn't say it's not ready, it's not ready.
What sort of work did your husband do in the Army? What was he?
In the Army, I don't know, Army men. They didn't train you, they just took you. And at that time it was good because the Arabs in the dark, they didn't walk, they didn't go.
Yeah.
If they put a head on a broom, it was a person. And
so now your sisters, how many sisters did you have in America? The 2 sisters?
2. They in New York.
Yeah.
And I came, they helped me out a little.
But did you come to visit at all, or no, you decided
At that
to?
time there was no visits.
Yeah.
Now you buy yourself a ticket and you go. At the time I had to come, we had to have vaccination and visa.
How'd you
X-ray.
convince your husband that you should go?
I think he was the one to go. He was tired of the
Yeah.
wars and of the army. I think every time he started a job, he had to leave the job in the middle because he had to go. I wasn't crazy about it because I had friends and I had a nice life. I liked it.
Yeah.
I lived in Tel Aviv where normal people live. It was something to me. And,
Many of your neighbors were survivors of the Holocaust in Tel Aviv?
yeah, I had 2 friends of mine. They're not around anymore. They lived in Los Angeles. Not too many. No. But we had a big organization in New York. And I was very active for 25 years. I was the treasurer. And I left now and I feel terrible. I feel terrible.
So now you decided to come to America. When was that? What year was that?
1956.
Okay.
I came 56 with my daughter because she was born in Germany. So they let her come.
Right.
But my son was born in Israel. So I had to come and send a visa for them.
So you came first?
I came first with my daughter. I came on a Thursday, and Monday I went to work. Never worked in my life.
Yeah. Where did you go to?
I worked in, my sister worked somewhere on a place, plastics, I don't even know what this was.
Yeah.
But I went to work, and I made $40 a week. And I came home with 38.
Yeah.
And I bought my daughter a television, and I was in the business.
So
Then I sent for my husband.
But
7 months later, he came.
you were living with your sister, or she found your apartment?
I lived with my sister for a while. She had 4 kids, and I wasn't in the mood. I wasn't up there. So I rented an apartment. I was a boarder, but some woman.
Yeah.
She took me in for the company.
Yeah.
It was a very good company
Where was this?
in the Bronx.
The Bronx, okay.
Yeah. So I lived there for about few months.
Mhm.
And then my husband came in 57 in May.
You came with your
my
son.
And they came by boat, and I didn't recognize them because 2 weeks on a boat, they looked better than I did. And before he came, I had some friends. I made some friends. I went to school for English, and I worked during the day, and at night I went to school.
Who took care of your daughter?
My daughter, she watched television. The school was right across,
Yeah.
so I was
Yeah,
safe
okay.
in the Bronx.
Where in the Bronx did you live?
On the Grand Concourse, 170. This was prime place.
Yeah.
And I have a friend, and she lived the next building, so sometimes my
Yeah.
mother stayed with her. And we, before he came, I had an apartment and appliances and furnished, everything for $38 a week. And I had money in the bank. I rented the bank classes.
Yeah. What sort of work did you do? You say you worked at a plastics factory?
Yeah, plastic factory, I don't know, plastic tablecloth for 1 year. And then after that year, and then my husband came, and he got a job by somebody we knew in the Bronx. And then he went on his own
But what kind of sort of work was he doing?
painter.
Yeah.
He worked on his own all the years, and he did okay.
Yeah.
And then I went to a different job because this job was out of business. So I worked in Manhattan for about 13, 14 years in a ladies' lingerie showroom, 28th Street in Madison. Very nice job. And my son insists I should stop working. He said, yeah, in between my daughter was married, he said, your daughter is married, she's doing okay. That kid never cost me a penny. He
Yeah.
went to college without money, without anything. And he said, if you need some money, I'll be here. So I came back to work and I said, you know, I'm quitting. They couldn't believe that. So they said, but you have to work Christmas time because we need you. So I went back. The following year, that tragedy happened with my son.
Yeah, tell me about that. How many children do you have?
I have a daughter,
Right.
I had a son.
Right.
And I have a daughter, 2 grandsons, and we got ourselves a nice granddaughter and a great grandson.
And what happened with your son?
My son, it was Easter vacation. So he said he bought himself a new car a few months before he's going on vacation. I said, sure, why not?
How old was he then?
He was 21.
What was he doing?
He was going to college. And I said, yeah, and he was working. He was carrying laundry on the 3rd, 4th floor to make $1. And I said, sure. So he went with a friend. They went on vacation, and they went as far as Georgia. And a truck went into them. It was an instant thing, both those.
What year was that?
1971. April 1971.
How about your husband continued to work? Did he?
Yes,
Yeah.
for himself, he worked.
Yeah.
And I quit my job, and then I had to go back to work. And then we had a grandson. Our first grandson was born 1970. So I was a little busy with him, and then I had to go back to work. So I went and I worked part-time, and we moved to Brooklyn. And I worked in Brooklyn in a store for about 5 years, just part-time, just to get out. And that's life.
And your husband, you retired?
Yes, my husband retired. We were both retired.
Yeah.
He retired at 65, but he worked. Now he's doing the best he can.
Let me ask you a question. When you came to this country, when you first came to America, did you speak of the Holocaust to anyone?
Yeah. Every time we get together with my friends, if it's 20 years ago, it's 40 years ago, for some reason or the other, every time we sit down to talk, this comes up.
These are people who were also survivors.
We always talk about it, the way we live, and the way we survived, and the way we coped with things, the way we coped with things. And every conversation comes up, then this comes up, or this comes before somebody else comes later.
Did you ever discuss this with your children?
Yes, all the time.
Yeah.
I couldn't sit with them for 6 years in an hour is not a lot.
Yeah.
But they know about it. And I went to the gathering in Washington, the gathering in Israel, the gathering in Philadelphia. We went all over.
Have you ever gone back to Chastahowick?
Yes, about 15 years ago, 14 years ago, we said we want to go to Treblinka. I don't know my parents, but our city made a monument there, a nice, the biggest stone there. So we went there, we went to Auschwitz, we went to Majdanek, we went to Soborov. We went to a few places, and we stayed in Warsaw. So we took a driver, we had somebody we knew. So we took the driver, and he took us to Chancellor. And when we got there to the street, another friend of ours was with us. When we got there, I said to him, we live in a 3-story building. He said, look, this is 3 stories, coming from America to that. So he said, lady, look. And I wanted to go in the yard, and I said, no, that's okay. I said, go. No, I don't want. I just couldn't go in there. And then we went, not around, I didn't even know where I am, but because they built that. Most of them, they have like these government buildings where they live in projects. And then we went in, I saw the cathedral, and then it hit me. And then it hit me, I said to my husband, now I know already what I am. I said, let's get out, I don't want you. We went back to Warsaw, and we came, and I couldn't come back home from there, so we went to Israel for 5 weeks. I said, I'm not going back to America, I go to Israel. I have my family there.
Yeah.
My mother had 2 sisters and 2 brothers. So I have my cousins there. So I'm very homey there.
Yeah. When thinking about it, what do you think is the most important lesson of the Holocaust, Stefan?
The most important must be the courage. Courage in want to live. And I told that to one of the psychologists. I said, I hated my parents for years. He said, why? You told me it's nice family, Orthodox, no shouting, no cursing. We didn't know about shouting and cursing. Sometimes we just kicked each other. But my parents shouldn't see that, but never. So I said, because I felt like my parents, they didn't love me enough, like the younger ones, that they let go of me. And I wanted to be with them because all my life I saw kids without a father. I couldn't imagine myself being without parents. And then they chased me away. And then when I got to my senses that they want me to live and not to die, so I forgive them. But I said, for years, this was in me. For years, this was in me. They were good parents. They wanted the best.
Before we close, Stefan, is there anything you'd like to mention about your experiences during the Holocaust that I've not asked you about?
I just hope nobody has to go through that. Because this is like in you for the rest of your life. Thinking back that I lived through that. Sometimes I sit with my sisters. One of my sisters lives in Rockland County. So sometimes I go there and we sit and we still talk about it. And I said, I can't believe that, what we went through. And we start out, we built families, and we built a life for ourselves. I said, I would never think about it. Who thought about it? Who thought about it? That we're going to be able to do something for ourselves. And if you have courage and you have a will of life, so you just go on with life. You do. As many times I said, I don't want to live anymore. I have enough. This is it. How much can you take it? But when it came to it, that they made the selections, we always went to the back, not the front, because life is a precious thing. If you make it, only if you make it.
We're going to show some of the photographs that you brought. we'll turn we're going to turn the monitor so you'll be able to see it. And I'll put the photographs up on the screen so you'll be able to see them. And you need your long glasses. Hold on just a moment, and we'll get everything ready. And if you'll look for that photograph. Right, is that, you have that other photograph? You want me to, you what? You have the other photograph?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
let me have that.
This is, because it would be nice if I show off my grandson and not the grandson. It wouldn't be fair.
All right, let me have that, I'll put this in. All right, the first photograph we're gonna look at, if Miles will turn this monitor, and then we'll be able to see it, okay?
Yeah, this is my mother.
Okay, come on up on this one up here. Okay. Hold on. There it is, okay.
Yeah.
All right,
This is my grandmother.
this is your grandmother?
Yes.
Okay. This was taken
Oh, I don't know.
a
Long time ago.
long time ago, okay.
This is my mother.
All right, this was probably taken when, right after she was married, the teens,
Yeah, when she was married.
and this,
She looks like,
yes,
this is my father.
this was taken about the same time,
Yeah,
and this was taken in Chastahoa.
yeah.
Next we have,
This is my oldest sister, Hava.
she was what, probably 3 years old, maybe less.
Yeah.
This was also taken in Poland. And tell me who's here.
Yeah, to the right, it's my father, on top of the gray beard.
This is your father?
Yeah,
Okay.
and this is, next to him, this is my son.
This is you right here?
Yeah, right there.
Okay.
This is my son. This is my aunt.
Okay.
This is my aunt.
Mhm.
And next to her is my youngest sister.
All right.
And this is my cousin, the daughter of my aunt.
Right.
And this is my father's brother.
All right.
And this is my cousin, he lives in Australia, Melbourne.
Okay, and then this is your father here?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And this is myself.
Okay, let's see. Where was this taken?
This was taken in Italy in 1947.
That's you and your daughter
My
and your
daughter
husband?
and my husband.
Mhm.
This is my family, my daughter's wedding.
Okay, now starting over here, who have we got?
To the right, this is my son.
All right, this is your son here,
Yeah.
and this is,
My son-in-law,
right?
my daughter, myself,
Okay.
and my husband.
And what year was this?
This was 1967.
Okay.
This was recently.
All right.
This is my daughter, my son-in-law, and the two sons, the two grandsons.
What does your son-in-law do?
My son is a teacher in high school,
And your daughter-in-law and your daughter?
works in the school system.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and your grandsons?
One of them, the older one, the next to my son-in-law, he's professor in Hofstra College,
And then the other one?
and the other one works for a mutual fund company.
Okay. We come to the dividends. What do we got here?
This is my dear great-grandson, Andrew. They named him after my son.
How old is he now?
He is now 10 months. This is Harrison.
Okay.
This is Harrison.
And over here, let's see.
And this our grandson, Andrew,
Hmm?
and Terry, his wife.
When was that taken?
New granddaughter. This is taking the wedding 2 years ago.
Well, I thank you so much. This has been Chuck Sussman interviewing Safta VHS about her experiences as a survivor of the Nazi Holocaust. This interview will be included as a valuable contribution to the Oral History Library of the Holocaust Documentation and Education Center, Incorporated. Thank you very much, Safta. We really appreciate.
Took me 60 years to do this.
Thank you so much.